When we see people that need our help, it is often because they've been hurt in one way or another and need help. It might be out of fear, shame, or even have preoccupation when seeing them. Each time someone is hurting, they need attentive care with a serious attitude that is full of love and not judgment. We take many people for granted and overlook their existence on a day-to-day basis. Animals, not people, sometimes require our help, and it is animals who continue to amaze us with their unconditional love and devotion, as well as their desire to help at any moment, even at the expense of their own lives. This is exactly what our story is about. We're discussing a typical small town in Russia. At the time, all of its residents were worried, and even seriously afraid of free-roaming animals in their midst. This is common in towns where people are afraid of approaching it and walking around them. I think we all know what a free-roaming dog, fighting breed dog means. It so happened that an elderly woman named Valentina, who lived on the outskirts of the town, was courageous and, most importantly, kind-hearted. The old woman always cared about animals. That's why she decided that if she were to meet the animal, which is what the townspeople came to call the big dog, she would make sure to help him. After all, he must have a reason for worrying the neighborhood and the reason for ending up on the streets alone with all of his problems. One day she got such a chance. It was a typical fall day. The elderly woman was walking to the nearest store to get groceries. To our surprise, a dog blocked her way. It wasn't just any dog, but precisely the one who was scaring the local people. Right away, she understood that it was the animal. Nobody knows how each of us would have acted in her shoes, considering the fact that the dog was giant. For some reason, however, the elderly woman was not afraid. What's more is that she decided to help this four-legged stranger. Slowly but surely the woman approached the animal and carefully studied him. She saw that the dog was relatively well taken care of. His fur looked healthy, but he was a bit too thin. He had deep eyes and gave the woman a questioning look. That said, he behaved pretty calmly and was even a bit afraid of the harmless person. Right away, Valentina realized that this poor stray was very hungry because the dog wagged his tail and excitedly sniffed her grocery bags, searching for something tasty. Valentina recalls, "I was not at all afraid of the dog. Only one question troubles me. How did he end up in our neighborhood? And where was his owner?" It was obvious that the dog was not just a typical stray. She began talking to the dog. She asked him how long he had been living on the street and where his home was. Of course, the dog did not answer, but simply continued to wag his tail and sniff the woman. After giving a little thought, the woman decided to take him home. At least for the time being, she knew that he would not make it on the streets. Valentina began walking towards her house and called the dog. To our surprise, he began to follow her obediently. On the way, the woman ran into her neighbor, who looked out of the car window to greet her, but was afraid to actually step outside. He told her that the dog was a pit bull, that it is a dangerous and aggressive breed, and it would be better to leave him outside, and certainly not to bring him into her home. He said that nobody knows what such a dog is capable of. The woman, however, decided not to listen to him. She said, "I looked at the dog, and I don't know why, but his appearance did not instill fear in me. I decided not to go back on my decision and to bring the four-legged find into my home." After coming home, the first thing the woman did was feed the homeless guest. Afterwards, she found a warm blanket and placed it by the door for her new friend. At first, the dog behaved shyly, but by the evening, he was more confident and laid down on the blanket. To Valentina's surprise, the dog behaved as if he had spent his entire life inside that house. By the end of the following day, the days went by, and Valentina found a way to communicate with the animal that, for reasons she couldn't understand, everyone was afraid of. Even though the dog was living with her, the woman put up flyers outside of the grocery store, just in case someone was looking for him, and the dog himself was missing his old home. But nobody responded to her flyers. Over time, the pit bull regained the strength he lost while living on the streets. The dog became more active and was always by the side of his beloved new owner. Even though Valentina had children, they visited her rarely, so she often felt sad and lonely. Now she had a friend whose attention and loyalty brought her joy. It's important to note that the dog practically never left the woman's side, and she was happy for it. They became friends. She gave her pet a new name. The giant pit bull became known as Bass. There was a meaning behind the name. When he barks, his voice sounded very low and rough, so much so that all the neighbors were afraid to walk past Valentina's yard. What's more is that many people judged the pit bull's owner. They said that she should forsake him to inappropriate organization, hinting at the fact that the dog would bring her much trouble. In general, they thought it was inappropriate for an elderly woman to adopt such a giant monster, but Valentina did not listen to anyone. Her and Base valued the time they spent together. The woman especially enjoyed spending evenings in the company of her pet. She would sit in her chair in front of the fireplace and tell Base different stories from her life. You wouldn't believe it, but the dog listened so attentively that it really felt like he understood each and every word. That's how the woman and the dog developed a true friendship. Valentina spent winter and spring with Base. The story could have ended here, but as you probably guessed, this was not the case. Valentina's children and grandchildren came to visit for the summer. They immediately got to know Base and were not at all scared of him. What's more is that he let them play with him. He was extremely patient when the little ones practically rode him. Base was happy to receive so much attention. Everything would have been fine, but one sunny summer morning, Valentina's grandchildren decided to go to the river. They didn't want to swim, but only to walk along the shore and to throw stones into the water. Of course, Base did not want to stay behind and be bored. He wanted to join the children on the walk. I'll get ahead of myself to say that it's almost as if he would be needed there on that day. Valentina, however, did not let him go with the children. She was worried that he would run away or get lost. So she tied him up in the yard with a small chain. Back then she could not imagine what happened next. What happened was that Valentina's, his youngest grandchild, entered the water almost up to his knees. When he leaned over to touch the water with his hands, disaster struck. He slipped on the whetstone and fell into the water. The current in the river was quite strong, which combined with the boy's young age, was able to easily sweep him off and carry him along the shore. The 8-year-old could not get out of the water. He also couldn't swim, so he just flopped around in the water and screamed as loudly as he could. The situation was exacerbated by the fact that the boy's 12-year-old brother also couldn't swim. The only thing he could do was observe the situation and to run along the river after his brother. The boy screamed for help, but nobody was around. They understood that the boy's life could end at any moment. He was running out of strength and swallowing more and more water. A few more moments, and he would have gone completely under. At the moment when everything felt extremely bleak, help came from a place where nobody expected. Base, who was playing in the yard, heard the boy's cries. He ran to the river almost instantaneously, and as if understanding the situation, quickly rushed into the water. Thanks to his strong body, Base was able to beat the current and swim towards the boy. Valentina's grandchild was shocked by what was happening. He gathered all his remaining strength and wrapped his arms around the Pitbull, who dragged him to the shore. Of course, Base struggled because the current was making it harder to reach his goal, and the boy attached to him was heavy, even for such a strong dog. Despite all the hardships, the dog was not giving up. In the end, Base succeeded, even if it is hard to believe. The dog, who everyone turned away from except for Valentina, thanked her by saving the boy's life. After several minutes, the woman's neighbor rushed to the river. It was the same neighbor who had told her earlier that the dog needed to be forsaken to an appropriate organization. He could hear a child screaming for help, but could not immediately tell where the screams were coming from. At first, the men thought that the pit bull attacked the boy, but having come closer, he realized not only that the dog did not harm the boy, but that he actually saved his life. The amazed neighbor recalled the situation to Valentina. I was shocked by what I saw. The animal was swimming with the boy on his back, which made the dog go underwater. After coming on shore, Base laid down for several minutes and coughed up water that he accidentally swallowed during the incredible risks. I think you have found each other. It is probably time to take down the flyers, because clearly he has chosen you and your family. Now he is your guardian angel. Once you saved his life by not being afraid of him, and by taking him in from the streets, now he repaid you in full. He is grateful to you and will never betray you. The woman smiled, but did not respond. She looked at the rescuer of her grandchildren with grateful and loving eyes. Base was playing in the yard and didn't suspect that he became a forever hero, not only to Valentina and her family, but to the entire town. That evening, Valentina went to see how Base was able to free himself from the chain. She was a bit shocked because the chain with which she tied her dog was broken in half as if it was bitten through. Base simply followed his heart. He was ready to give up everything for the sake of his people, even risk his own life. He showed again that a dog can be a man's most loyal friend. Of course, This happy rescue story is also as much of a miracle. Things can get tough sometimes, and that's when you need your friends the most. They're there for you in the good times and bad. Always be kind to your dog friends because they'll be loyal and supportive to you. Every dog lover knows this to be true. When it comes to dogs, we can trust in their love for us unconditionally. And as I hope people are as loyal and reliable to them, few things give me goosebumps like the loyalty of man's best friend. No matter what.